para ho magbigay ng general concept of the new normal. Ano yung ating mga mararanasan, ano yung mga konsepto ngayong new normal natin na kakaharapin. Tawagin ho natin ang LGOO2, Ma'am Ivy Dayan Piramide. Ma'am Ivy, magandang morning.
Good morning po. Naririnig po ba ako? Am I loud and clear po?
Yes, ma'am. Loud and clear.
Okay po. Magandang umaga po sa inyong lahat. Ngayon po ay i-discuss ko po yung general concepts ng new normal. Pero bago po tayo pumunta sa konsepto ng new normal, let us take a short recap po on what is COVID-19 and how does it spread. According po to the World Health Organization, coronavirus disease or COVID-19 is an infectious disease caused by a new strain of coronavirus. This virus and disease were unknown before the outbreak began in Wuhan, China in December 2019. COVID-19 affects different people in different ways. Most infected people will develop mild to moderate illness and recover without hospitalization. Most common symptoms include fever, dry cough, and tiredness. The incubation period for COVID-19 is between 2 to 14 days after exposure to an infected person. Next slide po. Ayan. However, new studies also show that an asymptomatic COVID-19 positive person can infect other people 2 days before the onset of the symptoms. So, paano po ba kumakalat ang COVID-19? Current evidence suggests that COVID-19 spreads between people through direct contact with an infected person, indirect contact through the contaminated objects or surfaces, or close contact with infected people via mouth and nose secretions. This includes saliva, respiratory secretions, or secretion droplets. These are released from the mouth or nose when an infected person coughs, sneezes, speaks, or sings. People who are in close contact or those people who are within 1 meter with an infected person can catch COVID-19 when those infectious droplets get into their mouth, nose, or eyes. Next slide po. On March 16, 2020, so si ating president po ay nag-impose ng enhanced community quarantine sa entire of Luzon, restricting the movement of the population except for necessary works and health circumstances. So bakit po ba in-impose itong ECQ? So bakit po ba in-impose ang enhanced community quarantine sa entire of Luzon? So first, ECQ prolongs the peak and stall the increase of COVID-19 cases in our country. Second, ECQ buys time for the health system to prepare and respond appropriately to COVID-19 situation. Also, with the implementation ng ECQ, yung estimated infection rate po natin ay bumaba from 2 to 1.5. And lifting the ECQ may mean more infected people. So katulad nga po ng nangyari ngayon. Lifting the ECQ is inevitable but must be done gradually as not to strain our health system. So ano nga po ba yung tinatawag natin na new normal? As defined po sa House Bill 6623, ang new normal po ay previously unfamiliar or atypical situation that has become standard, usual, or expected. It is a way of life that is anchored on strict mandatory safety and physical distancing protocols that will remain in place even after the quarantine measures are lifted. So bakit kailangan po ba nating mabuhay under the new normal condition? Next slide po. So why do we need to live the new normal? So according po kay Gideon Liefeld ng MIT Technology Review, we need to live the new normal to slow the spread of the virus so that the number of people sick at once doesn't cause the health system to collapse as it threatened to do in Italy. That means the pandemic needs to last at low level until either enough people have had COVID-19 to live most immune or there's a vaccine. So para mas maintindihan po natin yung konsepto ng new normal, we must also understand the principle where it is anchored. So meron po tayong 4 na principles ng new normal. First, evidence-based preventive measures as our basis of the new normal when ECQ is lifted. Second is to highlight health consciousness in every aspect of our daily living. And third is to the resetting and making of practices more efficient and easier for people to do. So ito pong mga practices natin under new normal should not be viewed as another complication in our lifestyle. And lastly is to acknowledge that social behavioral changes take time and do not happen overnight. As such, there is a need to utilize every channel available in communicating and eventually establishing the new norm. Meron po tayong 5 key components ng new normal na ginagamit din po sa pag-enumerate ng mga strategies. Next slide, please. So first po is yung reducing vulnerability of the people by having healthy lifestyle, a balanced diet, and exercise. Second po is to reduce the transmission of COVID-19 through proper hand washing, proper hygiene, cough etiquette, regular disinfection of surfaces, and the use of appropriate PPE such as face masks and face shields. Third is to reduce contact through physical distancing, reducing of personnel in offices, reducing face-to-face contact, and limiting travel to essential activities. Fourth is to reduce the duration of infection through early identification, referral mechanisms, and management mechanisms. And lastly is governance and accountability through organizational policies and investments. So, mayroon po tayong mga sumusunod na COVID-19 preventive measures and practices under the new normal. Next po. So, everyone po is encouraged to stay at home except po yung mga health workers natin and frontline workers. Those workers po in essential industries such as food, drugstore, banks, and individuals living home to buy basic necessities. Next slide po. Everyone is also encouraged to stay at least 1 meter away from others when in public. So, avoid going to crowded places and unnecessary gatherings. Avoid hugging, shaking hands, and kissing. Avoid interacting with high-risk individuals. Greet others by waving. And to avoid face-to-face contact, you may text, chat, or call your loved ones. Next slide po. So for wearing of face mask po, meron po tayong type of face mask for different type of person. So for healthy people po na going out, you may use po yung medical mask or yung cloth mask. And for those people po na nag-aalaga sa mga COVID-19 patients and people with COVID-19 symptoms, you are required po to wear surgical or medical mask. In wearing of face mask, make sure that the face mask covers the mouth and the nose. Keep the mask on at all times in public. Avoid touching the mask or the face while wearing the mask. Wash your hands after removing the mask. Do not reuse disposable masks and replace daily when damaged, soiled, or moist. Wash reusable cloth masks with hot water and detergent and dry them under direct sunlight. Next slide po. So for hand hygiene po, we need to wash our hands with soap and water for at least 20 seconds. Or kung wala po tayong soap and water, we may use alcohol with 70% solution if soap is not available. Cough etiquette po. It is necessary po na kapag tayo po ay uubo or mag-sneeze, we need to cover our mouth and nose with tissue or with the inside of our elbow. Next slide, please. Also, we need to observe din po yung ating surroundings. So we need to keep ourselves in a well-ventilated room and do not share room with others if possible. Avoid sharing common spaces such as living room, if you are living with a COVID-19 patient. And lastly, regularly clean and disinfect surfaces and items frequently used or touched, including the walls and floors, doorknobs, light switch, and among others. So, all employees of the DILG MIMAROPA are also encouraged to practice these workplace preventive measures against the spread and transmission of COVID-19. These include po yung preventive measures natin before leaving home, coming to the office, and leaving the office. So before leaving home po, when you are preparing at work, we encourage everyone to avoid wearing jewelry, watch, and other non-essential accessories since pwede pong mapunta dito yung droplets po ng COVID-19. So if you have long hair po, tie it back and wear shorter sleeves and avoid neckties. Wear pants instead of skirts and wear close, comfortable shoes. Also, before leaving your homes, make sure that all appliances are unplugged and the door is locked. Check what is inside your bag and make sure that all important items are inside the bag, which may include office documents, identification card, quarantine pass, face mask, alcohol or sanitizer, wallet, keys, and other personal hygiene products. And lastly, we also need to pray and ask for the divine guidance and protection for the whole workday. Next slide po. When you come to the office and if you were exposed in the public, so it is recommended po na avoid po natin yung crowded places and stay at least 1 meter away from others. Always wear a face mask or cover your mouth and nose with a cloth. You may use face shield or goggles. Use tissue, cloth, or sleeves to cover your cough and sneeze. Discard used tissues in an enclosed bin. And always wash your hands for 20 seconds or use alcohol with 70% solution and sanitizer after coughing or sneezing and touching surfaces. When using public transportation, it is also recommended to always wear the face mask and cover your mouth and nose with a cloth. Also, pwede rin po tayong gumamit ng face shield and avoid. Meron na po tayong bagong panukala ngayon na kapag sasakay po tayo ng public transportation, required na po yung face shield. And avoid touching your eyes, nose, and mouth. Avoid handshakes or touching surfaces frequently touched by other passengers. And have a pocket hand sanitizer or alcohol available and use it immediately after touching any surfaces. Next slide po. So before leaving the office po, we would like to highlight this po na sana yung mga employees po natin ay mag-change din po into clean clothes and shoes before leaving the work. And put your dirty clothes and shoes into a bag for soiled clothing. Wash your hands or use hand sanitizer or alcohol after removing work clothes and before touching new clothes. And when you arrive home po, it is highly recommended that you should not wear your shoes from work into your home. Disinfect first your shoes by soaking it in a doormat with disinfectant. Wash hands after handling dirty clothes and shoes. Wash clothes worn at work and shower before interacting with your family. Also, disinfect your home regularly. Next slide po. Meron din po tayong mga non-pharmaceutical interventions na recommended po ng Department of Health for COVID-19 mitigation which may be applied at any type of setting. So first po is yung respiratory hygiene and cough etiquette. So katulad nga po ng sinabi ko kanina, pwede po tayong gumamit ng tissue or yung inner portion po ng ating elbow kapag po tayo ay mag-sneeze or mag-cough. And then ito pong used tissue po na to, dapat may proper disposal po siya sa isang enclosed bin. Also, it is also recommended na magkaroon po ng hand washing facilities, hand sanitizers, and dispensers with an alcohol-based solution in all entrances and exits of buildings and facilities. Owners and management of establishments must ensure daily monitoring and availability of tissues, hand soaps, sanitizers, and other disinfectants within their premises. Also, we need to promote mental health. So individuals kung pakiramdam po nila ay medyo naapektuhan na po talaga yung mental health nila ng situation natin, they may reach out to families and friends or a mental health professional through telemedicine hotlines. The management of different establishments and organizations can institute activities that promote mental well-being and overall health to their constituents, including online programs and counseling. For personal hygiene po, all individuals po are encouraged to wash their hands with soap and water regularly or use hand disinfectants. And placement of makeshift hand washing facilities, hand sanitizers, and dispensers with an alcohol-based solution in all public places. So for environmental hygiene po, ensure lang po natin na lahat po ng surfaces ay atin pong nadi-disinfect since dyan po madalas na bumabagsak yung droplets ng COVID-19. Next slide po. Ayan. So next po is for the detection and isolation of symptomatic individuals. So kapag nagkaroon na po tayo ng symptomatic individuals with flu-like symptoms, so dapat po ay naka-isolate sila in a separate room or area within the household or establishment. So dapat din po na magkaroon ng standard symptom and temperature checks in strategically located areas and in public places and establishments, and proper referral of all individuals with symptoms. So, ganyan na rin po yung ginagawa natin ngayon dito sa regional office. And the use of PPE and other medical grade protective apparel. So, all individuals and workers are required to wear face masks. Individuals with flu-like symptoms are required to wear a medical grade mask at all times while inside the house. And personnel who are manning the exits and entrances of every establishments should wear and are encouraged to wear surgical masks. Reduce exposure of vulnerable individuals. So this include po yung mga elderly, yung mga individuals po with underlying conditions, and pregnant women. So they are encouraged po to stay at home and limit their travel to essential or urgent needs. And the management of establishments and other public places may designate a specific area for the vulnerable individuals within the premises. Next slide po. Then, practice physical distancing. So, if possible po, practice po tayo ng physical distancing of at least 1 meter, especially po in communal areas. And the placement of red marking tapes po on the floor to guide individuals to stay at least 1 meter apart from each other. Also, meron pa rin po tayong restriction sa mass gathering. So, limitation po on the number of people in public places and transportation facilities. And for churches po, churches may also provide multiple schedule of services or alternative practices to limit the number of attendees in religious services. And lastly po, provision of support essential workforce. So, meron po ditong provision of temporary accommodations to employees if necessary, provision of financial, transportation, food, and other services as needed, and the provision of cloth mask for general public or medical grade protective apparel depending on the intended user or setting. So ito pong provision of support for essential workforce ay atin na pong nagawa sa atin pong office sa DILG MIMAROPA. So next slide please. So, if you are living po with a COVID-19 patient, it is advisable to not share eating utensils, towels, bed linens, or other items to prevent the spread of the virus. Clothing, towels, and bed linens used by patients should be placed in a separate laundry bag, washed with hot water and laundry soap, and dried thoroughly. Limit the number of caregivers to 1 person only. So, ilimit po natin yung exposure. And then visitors should not be allowed. Wear proper protective equipment such as gloves and masks, and this should be replaced every day. Lastly, wash hands or take a shower after caring for the COVID-19 patient or after cleaning or disinfecting their room or belongings. Next slide po. So before ko po i-end yung presentation ko, I would like to leave these words po from Director Beverly Lorraine Ho ng DOH. So according to her, as long as we do not have a medical vaccine, our only protection is through these preventive measures and interventions. So thank you very much po. Back to you, Sir JR.
Maraming salamat, Ma'am Ivy. So, tama ho. So, nakakatuwa at very proud naman tayo sa atin sa DILG MIMAROPA, sa ating regional office na nasusunod natin yung ating mga safety protocols sa ating opisina. And syempre, kailangan din yung ating mental health. Tama po si Ma'am Ivy doon. Kaya po sa amin sa LGCDD, tuwing may meeting ho kami weekly, meron kaming weekly Bible study. So, nagkakaroon kami ng reflections para maano naman yung aming mga pag-iisip. And then, kaya dapat sundin din ho natin yung mga advice ng ating yung advice ng ating pamahalaan ng otoridad, yung bagong ni-launch ho na programa, yung Be the Solution. Yung B ho, bawal ang walang mask, I, isanitize lahat ng mga gamit, D, dumistansya ng 1 metro, at A, alamin ang mga tamang impormasyon. So, para bigyan ho tayo, kanina pa natin nababanggit yung itong Project Shield ho natin, yung COVID-19 response. Para bigyan ho tayo ng introduction dito sa DILG MIMAROPA Shield, tawagin ho natin ang ating Finance and Administrative Division Chief, Attorney Filipinas D. Baclayan. Attorney Pines, good morning po.
Morning! Naku, ang lakas yata. Good morning, JR. Good morning, everyone. Sa lahat ng po ng mga nasa regional office, sa mga nasa provincial offices, sa mga nasa kanya-kanyang munisipyo, ating mga city and LGOs, sa lahat ng mga naka-work from home, good morning po, and even those who are working from anywhere and everywhere. Thank you again for sharing your time sa activity na ito. And of course, I would like to thank our regional director and the assistant regional director for being always supportive of our ideas, the concepts and the designs that we are providing them. Or we are presenting to them. Thank you for always being supportive as we pursue a common goal, that is to provide quality services despite the pandemic that we are facing. So after the general concepts presented by Ivy, and before we go to the specifics of this Project Shield, please let me give you a little introduction into it. So, as we already know, yung SHIELD po is an acronym. Well, I would like to thank Ma'am Tess for helping us find the right acronym for this project, the right meaning to every letter of it. It's all, in a way, most suited for what started as a quality action plan really is. Actually, while we were conceptualizing this project, we started with the word discipline or disiplina, ganun. Kaya lang parang napakahaba po and mahirap mahanapan ng meaning. So hanggang nakarating po tayo sa salitang SHIELD. To us, this is very appropriate kasi shield as a word in itself means it's a safeguard, di ba po? So ito yung panangga natin sa COVID-19. And as we know, if you are familiar with the logo of our department, the DILG logo, see, there's a lot of shield. Okay. Dun sa bagong logo po ng DILG, kung makikita natin, there are 18 shields, di ba po? And even in the old logo prior to the existing, there is a very big shield at the center of it. Although the shields in our logo has different meaning, which they actually represent the interior sector or the peace and order or public safety sector of our department. Still, it has, we feel that it has a connection with the acronym that we have decided to have to be the title of this project. So, para po doon sa mga nakabasa na ng ating quality action plan, you may already have an idea on the specifics of this. So, alam po natin or maybe nakita na ninyo that this is really not that complicated. It's not at all complicated. Or at least hindi siya kasing complicated ng inyong mga relationships po. So this project shield is simply a compilation of all our strategies as an office in fighting COVID-19 and in adapting to the new normal. So pinagsama-sama po natin in a single document. Of course, it's not only for the sake of documentation, but to make sure na wala tayong nakakaligtaan or naiiwanan sa mga kailangang gawin at mga kailangang paghandaan. So this all started as a plan. When we first presented this to the management, it's really an action plan, but it is already risk-based. So what started as a plan is now being implemented at all levels of our offices. Sa regional office, sa provincial office, sa ating mga MLG, municipal offices, city offices, we are already implementing all these activities. So, para lang po hindi sila magkagulo or yung bang hinahanap-hanap natin every time na tanungin tayo what are we doing about this COVID-19. So, it has been decided to document it into a single project such as this. So, makikita po natin whether tayo ay nasa ECQ or kahit nasa GCQ na tayo or kahit kung ano pang meron yung mga CQ or kahit wala na tayong CQ, itong mga strategies na ito po ay ini-implement natin at kailangan nating i-implement because this is our not only strategy to fight but to adapt to the new normal. So, and with all these activities, lalo na yung mga in-enumerate kanina ni Kim, I could say that we are already one step ahead or a lot of steps ahead doon sa nire-require sa atin ngayon ng central office, which is a report on the adoption of risk control approach in managing the effects of the pandemic. So as I was reading the memorandum from HEA na pinagsasubmit nga po tayo ng report or implementation report ng adoption of risk control approach, sabi ko nga po kay Sydney, we will just collate the accomplishments from our field offices or provincial offices, from the different divisions and units in the regional office, and we will be able to submit our implementation report of this risk control approach. And with so much contribution from the different units, in the implementation of this Project Shield Quality Action Plan. So with the next presentations, we will see that makikita na po natin, yung paano natin ini-implement what started as a plan. So, alam nyo po, at the start of the pandemic, we were faced with major questions na hindi simpleng sagutin. It was very difficult for us to answer given the budget required by all these activities and strategies. So the questions, as already mentioned by our regional director po kanina, is that how do we ensure that with this pandemic, hindi nako-compromise ang ating deliverables and mai-provide pa rin natin ang mga output na expected sa atin. And in doing all these activities or tasks or responsibilities, paano natin masi-safeguard ang health, welfare ng ating mga employees? So since day 0, March, or even prior to the declaration of the first declaration of the ECQ, walang tigil ang ating regional director, ang ating assistant regional director sa pagbibigay ng instructions, ng guidance kung ano ang ating gagawin, kung paano natin gagawin ang mga bagay-bagay with the little money that we had nung mga panahong iyon. And with a little policies from national government, as we know, medyo matagal din lumabas yung guidelines ng CSC and dumating pa yung NBC 580 of the DBM, wherein we had to realign our plans. We had to forgo most of our planned activities. So sa dami ng instructions and of course, nakakabahala naman na talaga yung situation. That's one of the main reasons why we decided to really document all these plans. So paunti-unti yung mga plano ng management na i-plot natin with the input from the different divisions, with the insights ng ating mga division chiefs, ang ating mga provincial directors, nagka-call out tayo sa ating mga GCs at sa kanilang mga recommendations, ano ang kailangan gawin, paano natin gawin. So, yun, that is the history or paano nagkaroon itong Project Shield. This is not a new thing. It's merely a compilation of everything na ginagawa nating lahat. And yun nga po, katulad ng nabanggit kanina, ang ating objective lang naman is to make sure na naka-align tayo sa national strategies and the strategies of our central office. That's why we, as much as possible, localize policies and circulars para ma-streamline sila and trim kung ano lang po ang applicable sa atin. And of course, kailangan nating i-ensure na walang areas of concern na hindi natin napag-isipan ng plano. A risk-based plan. So dapat lahat po na-address ang mga systems. So yan po. And of course, we have to answer the question that we were faced at the onset of this pandemic. How do we deliver? How do we deliver our expected outputs? And hindi natin sila mahayaang ma-compromise. And in doing so, we must make sure that the welfare and health of our employees are safeguarded. So, tulad nga ng paulit-ulit, kailangan lang nating i-memorize that SHIELD is an acronym. Where S stands for systems in place. Specifics will be given by the next presenters. Pero in here, in the systems in place, generally, ito yung mga pag-review natin ng ating mga policies, paggawa ng mga bagong policies and circulars. The newest of this, if you have already read, we have already localized a circular. It's now called the Regional Circular 2020-009. So it is the guidelines on the use of virtual and internet subscriptions. So I hope everyone is happy with that circular. Sana sundin lang po natin and we will never go wrong. For H, what is most new in this is the mental health program of the DILG as a whole. Well, the circular is out for comment ng lahat po. And yeah, maybe pwede na nating unahan ang implementation nito. In coordination with the CDD, we are conceptualizing another activity na susunod dito. It's a stress management activity for everyone. So yung mga naglagay kanina dun sa Mentimeter, they are anxious, they are worried, they are scared, nababahala. So we aim to help everyone na ma-overcome or at least ma-mitigate po yung mga ganitong pakiramdam ng ating mga employees. So another update is related doon sa na-mention ni Kim kanina that about the rapid test kit. The OCD, Office of the Civil Defense Mimaropa Region, has allotted 50 rapid test kits for DILG Mimaropa. So when we received that information, we coordinated with the DOH on how could we possibly use that allocation. So just recently, I was furnished by the Occupational Safety and Health Officer ng ating region. So for information of everyone, meron na po tayong Occupational Safety and Health Officer in the person of Engineer Michael Ras, and the alternate is Kim, ang ating nurse. So yun nga, ganun po ang sagot ng DOH sa atin, that they are actually asking us on how do we plan to use the rapid test kits allocated for us, because hindi na daw po iyon recommended. It's already the stand of DOH na hindi nga siya pwedeng gamitin as report to work requirement or screening or whatever, but it's only be used for research and clinical studies, parang ganun. So we will again talk about that with the management kung how will we do about it. And what has caught my attention na parang dun sa presentation ni Kim that could fall on this H strategy is the washing hands while reciting the quality policy. So with this strategy, there is no reason na wala na po siguro, wala nang employee na hindi makamemorize ng quality policy. Kasi ang ibig sabihin lang po siguro, hindi siya naghuhugas ng kamay or hindi siya sumusunod sa yun nga, kung ano ang minention ni Kim kanina na ating strategies. For the information for all, ito mostly the responsibility of WALI na hindi rin naman nagkukulang. sa pagbibigay ng information sa ating lahat. But we encourage everyone to also use your own platforms, your online online accounts to spread good information from the department from our office. So gamitin lang siguro nating test, if I may share what Socrates, the Greek philosopher who has good reputation on wisdom, has once said that in sharing information, we should use the test of 3 sieves. So first, we ask if what we are going to impart or kung ano ang sasabihin natin ay totoo. Is it the truth? So kung hindi tayo sigurado kung totoo ang ating ibabahagi or sasabihin, we go to the next test. Is it good? Maganda ba, maayos ba? Hindi ba yan masama? Hindi ba makakasira? So, kung hindi pumasa doon sa dalawang test, perhaps baka pwede pa doon sa pangatlo, which is the utility. Yun bang sasabihin mo may silbi, may gamit doon sa pagsasabihan mo to the public. So yun, first, the truth. Is it a truth? Is it good? Or is it of utility? So we can use that test in giving information. For ensuring excellence, this is a compilation of the strategies ng ating mga divisions and units. Ang napakadaming ginagawa ng LGMed since day zero din, and ng ating mga MLGOs. Dito pumapasok yung sa ating operations part. Kanina ang daming ini-enumerate ni Kim. Baka nga wala pa doon yung iba. So, ayan, since March, walang pahinga ang ating operating units sa pag-ensure na palaging excelente ang ating mga services. So, for leveraging resources, we know that in April, that was April, National Budget Circular 580 came out na meron silang mga pinapabawas sa ating mga projects, sa ating budget, pinapakat ng certain percentages ang ating budgets. So we had to forgo most of our planned activities para makapagsole tayo ng pera at para may magamit sa COVID-19. But after na ilang buwan na implementation ng mga national strategies, so nagkaroon naman tayo ng chance na makapag-apply or makapaghingi sa DBM. So ang ating central office ay nakakuha din ng COVID Response Fund. Na yun na yung ginagamit natin ngayon hanggang sa ating provincial office and municipal offices. So this Project Shield contains the bulk of where the COVID-19 fund is going, from the regional office hanggang sa municipal offices po natin. And of course, discipline for all, that's very much self-explanatory. Kailangan po talaga natin magkaroon ng disiplina sa katawan. It is not only for our family's sake, it's not only for our own sake, could be for heaven's sake, for all you know. Ayan, so let us not just forget, SHIELD is an acronym. It is a compilation of all our strategies put into one document. This is what the DILG MIMAROPA has been doing or will continue to be doing to fight COVID-19 and to adapt to the new normal. This is not perfect. It will never be perfect until walang kasiguruhan ang ating situation. So we welcome all your suggestions and recommendations kung ano pang mga plans or strategies ang pwede natin pong idagdag dito. So yun lang. I think that's already a long introduction to the SHIELD project. So thank you very much. And again, good morning sa ating lahat po.
Maraming salamat po ang ating Division Chief ng Finance and Administrative Division, Torny Pilipinas, Lee Baclayo. Tama ko na kailangan sumulo tayo ng ibigay natin ng mga sama-sama natin mapagtagumpay. Tama rin sinabi na po, nakakalimutan, dami ng ECQ, GCQ, MECQ. Ang susunod ho, PASQ na, malapit na, ilang days na lang, months na. Maririnig na ho si Observance ulit. So, para po bigyan naman tayo yung tatlong acronym ho, yung System in Place, Health First, and Information for All. Tawagin muna natin na ating Planning Officer, Ma'am Cecil M. Ibarrientos, para ho i-discuss sa atin itong tatlong letrang ho ito. Ma'am Cecil, good morning po.
Yes, good morning JR. Good morning po sa lahat. Naririnig po ba ako? Naririnig po ba ako? Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes po, ma'am.
So, gaya po ng nasabi nila, i-discuss ko po yung tatlong acronym ng SHIELD, S, H, and I. So, first po, ang ating letter S, Systems in Place. So, ang strategy S1 po natin ay ang alternative work arrangements. Sa alternative work arrangement po, kailangan po nating i-adopt ito sa lahat ng operating units in accordance po sa mga national issuances like Executive Order 111, 112, CSCMC 10, and other issuances po. Taking into consideration po yung condition of mass transportation, geographical setup, provision of local ordinances, and other peculiarities in the area. So sabi nga po ni Ma'am Attorney Pines kanina na ito po ay ginagawa na rin natin. So nagawa na po natin ito, yung survey, where we conduct survey sa mga employees regarding sa work arrangements. Then nag-prepare po yung ating mga divisions ng work arrangements nila, kanya-kanyang work arrangements, submitted to FAD for consolidation, wherein we consider employees who are pregnant, senior citizen, PWD, shall be on work from home arrangement unless their physical presence in the office is indispensable. So kung kailangan lang po talaga na pumunta sa office, doon lang po pwedeng pumunta yung pregnant, senior citizen, and PWD. Next slide po. So since after consolidating the work arrangement, regional order and or provincial order shall be issued for submission to CSC and Central Office HRD. Then after that po, of course, we need to monitor the accomplishments. Ang ginawa po natin dito, meron po tayong Google Drive. We maximize the use of Google Drive to consolidate all the accomplishments. Then for attendance, minonitor din po natin yung attendance natin in two options po. For the work from home, we use the electronic or yung pag-submit po natin through the use of Gmail. And for the personnel who are required to work physically or to report physically sa office, they are required to use the biometrics or the logbook. Next po. So for strategy S2, personal transportation arrangement, employees who are required to physically report to office may be provided vehicular support subject to the physical possibility considering the number of personnel vis-a-vis number of drivers and vehicles. the distance and location of the residents, and subject to availability of funds. So nagkaroon din po tayo ng transportation survey dito. Then, kinonsider po natin yung mga options like carpooling, use of office vehicle to be fueled by the concerned personnel, rental of private vehicle to be fueled by the concerned personnel, din po sa provision natin ng transportation. Also, yung shuttle service, we prepared a shuttle service schedule depending on the survey result. Meron din po siyang mga areas na kinonsider dyan kung Quezon City, Manila. So, ganyan po natin pinrepare yung shuttle service schedule. Next po. Strategy S3, no visitor policy. Clients shall, as much as possible, do their transaction through electronic means to minimize social interaction. So, pero since baka meron pong mga clients na kailangan po talaga pumunta ng office, meron po tayong dinesignate na client area, which is nasa first floor po, malapit sa ating guard. One more thing po, we had our public advisory, preparation of advisory or announcement for public information to be posted at FB page, website, office entrance. So nagkaroon po tayo ng public advisory na hindi po tayo tatanggap ng mga bisita sa ating FB page and office entrance. Next po. Strategy S4, provision of lodging quarters. Employees who are on skeleton workforce for more than 1 day in a week are encouraged to be on duty for consecutive days in order to minimize travel to and from the office. They shall be provided with lodging support. So thank you po sa PDMU. Folding beds are procured. Sponsor po ng PDMU. Ano pa po ang kailangan gawin dun sa provision ng lodging? Water, tumblers, and drum. Procurement of water, tumblers, drum in anticipation of water interruption. Since marami nga po na nagstay sa office, so kailangan din po nating mag-maintain ng ating tubig in anticipation of water interruption. So we have to procure water, tumbler, and drums. Next po. So for H, nasa H na pala ako. Health first. Strategy H1, mandatory health requirements shall be imposed. Actually, lahat po ng nakalagay dito ay na-discuss na po kanina ni Ms. Ivy. So, number 1 po, mandatory wearing of face mask at all times. Surgical mask provided by the central office shall be distributed to all employees. I think nagawa na po ito. All personnel will be provided with washable masks as support from the regional office. So, dito po nakapag-purchase na po tayo ng washable mask initially, and now po ongoing po yung pag-procure ng additional washable mask. Provision of alcohol and hand sanitizer. Alcohol and hand sanitizer will be provided subject to the availability of funds. Since nasabi na nga po ni Attorney Pines kanina na meron tayong support from the central office, tuloy-tuloy pa rin po yung provision of alcohol and hand sanitizers. Installation of disinfecting mats, use of alternate footwear. Disinfecting mats will be installed in all office entry points, or an alternate footwear may be worn inside the office. Next po. Disinfection of the office. Office building premises and vehicle will be disinfected regularly. So, as of now po, dun sa regional office po, we had 2 disinfections na po na nangyari. And regarding naman sa vehicle, they are instructed po to disinfect pagka-unload po ng ating passenger, kailangan disinfect immediately. Temperature taking, checking of temperature of every individual arriving at the office premises using a no-touch thermometer. So, ganyan na po yung nangyayari sa atin ngayon. No-touch thermometer po ang gamit ng ating guard. So, siya lang po ang hahawak ng ating thermometer. Designation of isolation area, assignment of isolation area for employees with high temperature as detected through the thermal scanner. So, meron po tayong in-establish na tent in front po ng ating office para dun sa isolation area. Yung purpose po ay for the use as an isolation area. Next po. Implementation of health protocols. Health protocols will be implemented in relation to the detection of any COVID-19 symptoms among employees and endorsement to a health facility when necessary. So, ayan po yung magiging responsibility ng ating occupational health and occupational safety and health committee na pinangungunahan po ni Engineer Mike. Together, si Ma'am Kim. Monitoring of compliance in health and safety standard, monitoring office compliance with occupational health and safety standard in the regional and provincial offices. Monitoring of employees' compliance in the minimum health protocols. So each division shall designate a personnel to monitor compliance all employees of the minimum health protocols and etiquette and reporting of violation for proper action. So lahat po ng division may designated personnel to monitor yung health requirements or mga protocols. Next po. Strategy H2. Other social distancing measures shall be observed. So ano po ba yung mga other social distancing measures? Avoidance of social meal breaks. Employees are encouraged to bring baon and consume them at their own tables, or pantry area may be only used by 2 employees at a time and for a limited period of 15 minutes each. Lunch out is discouraged. Employees are encouraged to use their own utensils. If use of common utensils is unavoidable, this shall be properly utilized. Number 2, observance of physical distancing at all times. Observance of 1 meter distance between employees in using the biometric machine, telephone, photocopier, and or other common equipments. Avoidance of mass gathering in the conduct of ceremonies, like convocation, flag raising, retreat ceremony shall be conducted simultaneously by all operating units at their respective workplaces to avoid mass gathering at the conference room. Next po. Strategy H3, physical health and psychological intervention, psychosocial intervention. Other physical health and psychosocial intervention shall be provided to employees taking into consideration the social distancing protocol and the austerity measure. Online stress debriefing seminar to employees. Coordination with the central office personnel division for the provision of online stress debriefing seminar to employees. I think sa mga executives po natin, nagkaroon na po ng stress debriefing from the LGA. Ito rin po yung sinasabi ni Ma'am ni Ma'am Attorney kanina, Attorney Pines, na magkakaroon po ng stress debriefing to all employees. Designation of recreation area, designation of recreation area and procurement of sports equipment subject to availability of funds. So, subject pa rin po to the availability of funds. The use of this area shall be limited to 2 persons at one time. Kung magkakaroon po tayo ng recreation area. Health and Wellness Program, revisiting implementation of health and wellness program for all employees, and periodic conduct of health declaration survey. So ito pong health declaration survey ay nangyayari na po sa ating pag-register ng attendance. May kasama na rin po siyang health declaration survey. Next po. Information for all. Strategy 1. All employees shall keep abreast of recent developments of government strategies, plans, and programs relative to the fight of COVID-19 and the adoption to the new normal, and shall act as disseminators of official information by sharing DILG official posts and announcement in their personal FB page and other online platforms. So, number 1 po dito ay orientation of employees on the SHIELD strategy and the new normal. So, as of now po, nangyayari po itong orientation na ito. Next po ay ang daily posting of COVID-19 related posters, code cards, infographics, and issuances via FB page and official website. So, based po dun sa records or data, we have 400 plus FB post regarding COVID ngayong pong first semester. So, if we average it, mga 3 posts per day, including Saturdays and Sunday po yung nangyayaring pagpo-post. Sharing of official posts in the FB page for wider information, dissemination, sharing of fake news shall be avoided. So yung mga guide po dito na ibigay na po kanina ni Attorney Pines. Next po. So, yung next po, ensuring excellence, will be provided by our focal persons. That's it po for S, H, and I. Thank you po.
Maraming salamat po sa ating planning officer, Ma'am Cecil M. Ibarrientos. Ma'am, thank you po ha. And now, next po ang ensuring excellence. Ito pong ensuring excellence na hati po sa 4 pillars. Capacity development, monitoring and evaluation, project development and management, implementation of PAPs. So, tuloy-tuloy na ho natin ang magdi-discuss po for capacity development. Ang ating pong OIC Assistant Division Chief ng LGCDD, Ma'am Jacqueline C. Manalon. Ma'am Jackie, good morning.
Maraming salamat, JR. Good morning, everyone. Can everyone hear me? Now, let's discuss the letter E of SHIELD, that is ensuring excellence under the new normal. How do we ensure that our services continue despite the restrictions brought about by the pandemic? How do we transition our services to the new normal, and yet putting excellence in our delivery of our services? For the last few months, the regional management and staff have strategized ways in coping with the transition from face-to-face to virtual transactions. Of course, this is nothing new to us, as some of our services, like technical assistance, were done through email, voice calls, and such. However, what about the capacity development activities or the learning and development interventions? How do we provide them when most of the Mimaropa locations do not have strong internet connectivity to do virtual learnings? How do we cope with it? Though we don't have control on the network availability, we can strategize on how we can still deliver. Because all COPDEV activities and LND intervention as much as possible shall be done virtually. In this sense, the regional management and staffs reviewed and conducted activities that will help our field offices cope with virtual learnings or meetings. First is the review of our Lnd plan. Considering the limitations in the conduct of LND, we are now limiting our activities to the new 2020 OPD targets. Even our internal LND are limited to learning on the use of virtual platforms and also some COVID activities and such. Further, we are also informing you that the COPDEV scorecard is postponed due to an even playing field. Not everyone can cope with providing COPDEV activities, considering the different situations in every locality. However, we would still want to recognize the efforts done by our field offices in the provision of technical assistance. Second, all our activity designs are geared towards virtual learnings or meetings. Our supplies, if applicable, can be used for communications or small items. Of course, this is below the cap limit of the 15,000 to support our online trainings. Third, we had conducted last April the work arrangement survey. In this survey, we asked your views on what work arrangements you prefer and the capacity to deliver an online COPDEV activity. On the results for the participation for online learnings, there were 197 out of 212 respondents who have answered they are willing to participate. While on the provision of COPDEV, of the 61 respondents who answered they are COPDEV providers, 38 have responded that they can provide online COPDEV activity. There must have been a misunderstanding as to the term COPDEV provider, because once a technical personnel, we are trained to provide COPDEV interventions. Results of this survey were shared to the regional and provincial management. Fourth is the submission of the ISO reports, which was postponed to August 5, 2020. However, though postponed, we are still following the processes and recording our transactions. Next slide, please. The next one, next slide, is the utilization of online platforms. We tried using the Facebook Messenger, Zoom, and Google Meet to determine the best platform to use. We looked into the features which can deliver an easy navigation and requirements for our virtual learnings or meetings. The Zoom platform is best used when you have larger participants or you want breakout rooms. The Google Meet is best when used in conducting meetings for a much lesser features, while for Facebook Messenger is better used for smaller meetings and in a small scale of participants, and which is easier to navigate and connect with. So whatever platforms we're going to use depends on the type of activity we will conduct. 6 is the online feedback mechanism. We are now transitioning to online feedback mechanism. The forms for the procedures of learning and development and provision of TA as resource speakers have transitioned from paper-based to online forms. Seventh, this is one of our wish lists, wherein we are asking for a provision of communication support. This will be later on discussed by the Finance and Administrative Division for the development of this wish list. 8, we have the assistance on the use of online platforms. Technical assistance can be provided by the regional personnel on the use of online platforms. We can tap the RITO to assist us on how to better use the online platforms. Further, we would like also to inform you that the LGCDT will also conduct a webinar on the use of some of the online platforms later on. This will be announced later at our Facebook page Friday. Next is the acquisition or upgrading of ICT equipment and the subscription to online platforms. How else can we cope with virtual learnings if the current equipment we have no longer able to cope, or we only have free subscription which have limited capacity? So the STMS have provided funds to equip our regional offices, provincial offices, and city office with video conferencing equipment together with the subscription to online platforms. Should there be a simultaneous activity conducted by the field offices, the regional office, in coordination with RITO, will lend their Zoom subscription for use so long as it is available. So we must ensure first the availability of the Zoom platform at the regional office before conducting such activity. Finally, the provision of instructional materials. We are now providing our instructional materials like manuals, videos, and other references for re-echoing the activity in our locality. With this, we collaborate with all focal persons in the crafting of these materials. Of course, we would appreciate any contributions in the packaging of these materials. The improvement and development of learning materials is a joint effort of everyone. Please feel free to send us any materials or suggestions or recommendations you think will help improve our captive delivery. These were the strategies developed and employed by the regional office to ensure excellence under the new normal in the strategy of capacity development activities or learning and development interventions. Maraming salamat po. I'm turning you over back to JR.
Maraming salamat po sa ating OIC Assistant Division Chief ng LGCDD, Ma'am Jacqueline Manalon. For the next po na pillar natin, ang monitoring and evaluation, tawagan po natin ang ating Assistant Division Chief din po ng LG Med, Sir Andrew B. Gonsalvo. Sir Drew, good morning. Alright, andito na po ba si Sir Drew?
Hello, JR.
Hi,
Good
Sir Drew.
morning.
Good morning. Ayan po.
Kita niyo yung presentation. JR, kita na yung presentation ko.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Kita na po, sir. Kita na po. Thank you.
Okay, good morning po sa lahat. Still under ensuring excellence for strategy 2, monitoring and evaluation component. So far naman, walang masyadong changes sa M&E component. Dahil siguro we have been utilizing the online platform since 2013 through Google Sheet. Kaya hindi na sa atin bago yung mga ipipresent ko sa inyo mamaya. Except, of course, sa mga PAPs natin, like performance assessment na na na-suspend due to COVID-19 like SGLG, LTIA, POC performance audit. But other than that, wala masyadong pagbabago. So I'm going to present to you the strategies and approaches of M&E under the new normal. Some of these strategies are already in place, so hindi na sa inyo bago. Tayo mag... Ayan. Ayan, no contact policy. No contact policy on the submission of LGU request. For example, purchase of motor vehicle. Before kasi, the central office was, the submission of the hard copy of documentary requirements was required by the central office. So the LGU officials would physically appear before the DILG office just to submit the documentary requirements. So dahil nga sa present situation, the central office is already allowing the submission of these documents via electronic means. So hindi na kailangan pumunta si LGU official dun sa office ng MLGU to submit the documents. Napatunayan natin effective ito ang ganitong approach kasi mas mabilis yung electronic means na submission. Ano? At isa pang advantage nito is less ng expenses sa side ng DILG kasi hindi na nagpapadala ang MLGO or ang provincial office sa RO through courier or LBC. So nakaka-less tayo ng expenses. So sana kahit mawala yung COVID, ma-retain yung ganitong policy kasi mas effective to sa tingin ko. Number 2, simplifying of online report templates. With the overwhelming number of reports, I think sa LGMed, minomonitor naming reports, yung mga regular PAPs natin is nasa 90 plus, plus yung ating COVID-related reports na nasa 20 plus. So, kung ikaw si MLGO, nakaka-overwhelm, hindi mo alam kung ano yung isasubmit mo ngayon, bukas, ano-ano yung mga deadlines. So, as much as possible, tinutulungan natin ating field officers by simplifying the report templates. Paano natin ginagawa? We provide instructions on how to fill out the report templates. So, may mga report templates kasi mga medyo complex and subject to different interpretations. That's why we have to include the instructions. Pero hindi naman lahat mahirap intindihin. Yung iba lang na complex. And then we also provide legal basis for each monitoring report. Kung mapapansin nyo sa ating mga Google Sheet na sinishare, merong mga legal basis that would serve as reference for our field officers why we are requiring such report. And then, naglalagay din kami ng legend. So, nakasanayan na natin pag may red, ibig sabihin, non-submission. Pag kulay green, okay yung submission mo. So, pag sumasakit na yung mata mo sa pula, ibig sabihin nun, mababa ang compliance mo. And then, sa central office din, dahil siguro napansin nyo na medyo kalat yung ating monitoring ng mga COVID-related reports, sinimplify niya lately yung ating CQMS report. Hindi ito yung ISO ha. Yung CQMS, Community Quarantine Monitoring System Report, and yung CTT or Contact Tracing Report. Pinag-isa na lang niya. Dati kasi magkahiwalay pa yon, so ngayon pinag-isa na niya. And also that applies to the BLGD Unified Forms. Ito ay tatlong MC, DILG MCs na minomonitor ng mga field officers, but ginawa ng paraan ng BLGD na pag-isahin sa isang file yung tatlong MC na yun para ma-monitor ang submission. And then data information management, so centralized information sharing. Bakit nga ba mahalaga magkaroon ng isang centralized information sharing? We have to have a centralized information sharing to avoid data redundancy. Kasi imagine LG Med, CDD, ORD, FAD, PDMU, requiring same report from our field officers. Kasi iba-ibang templates, iba-ibang division yung nangihingi. So, hindi magandang tingnan. Sabog ang data na makukuha mo. So, ang ginagawa natin, sinecentralize natin ang reporting. So, kung concern ng med, si med na lang nanghihingi. Kung concern ng CGD, si CGD na lang ang nanghihingi, and so on and so forth. Halimbawa, nangailangan ang med ng list of MLGOs and their contact numbers. Hindi na kami mag-require sa MLGOs ng contact numbers nila. Pwede kaming mag-refer or humingi ng list sa FAD kasi sila yung in charge doon. So yun ang kagandahan ng centralized information sharing. Pero ang naging issue lang dito, nagiging issue ito kapag one information or same information is being required by two or more agencies. A very good example of this is yung ating Social Amelioration Program report. Yung SAP report, si DSWD merong monitoring. Si DILG may monitoring. So whenever we have to write to the central office, care of USIC Malaya, we have to emphasize na based on DILG records, ganito po ang aming data. Based on DSWD records, ganito po ang data. So, malaki kasi yung discrepancy sa SAP. Kaya, mahirap pag kung hindi namin alam kung paano ma-reconcile. Okay lang sana kung maliit lang yung percentage na discrepancy, pero medyo malaki. So, ang remedy sana natin dyan is centralize na lang yung information sharing. So, ibig sabihin kung ASAP talaga, since naman siya ay under ng DSWD, dapat siguro sa DSWD na lang manghingi. Pero malaki kasi ang bilib nila sa DILG, kaya kahit alam nila na may concerned agency na may panggagalingan ng isang report, pinapadaan pa rin sa DILG. Kaya doon pumapasok yung issue ng data discrepancy. Next, online orientation, rollout of PPAs. So, hindi naman sa nagpapasalamat tayo na nagkaroon ng COVID-19, pero ang brighter side siguro nito is na-realize natin na sa ganito palang pagkakataon, pwede pa rin nating ituloy yung conduct of online orientation and rollout. So, dati kasi physical or face-to-face interaction, pag nagkakandak tayo ng online orientation, so ngayon, pwede na pala tayo mag-conduct ng online orientation. Less sa expenses ng national government. Of course, nababawas yung travel expenses, yung ating accommodation. Malaki ang kabawasan sa ating mga expenses. So, hindi naman natin forever pwedeng isuspend ang implementation ng ating mga PPAs, especially SGLG, which is already a law. So next year, expect na mag-start na po tayo ng orientation ng SGLG, pero online po yan. Ang nakikita ko lang problema dito is after the online orientation, papasok na kasi yung on-site assessment na ginagawa natin na face-to-face or ginagagal natin ng mga LGU local officials para sa document inspection. So, baka ngayon ang gawin na lang is to require the LGUs to submit the documentary requirements via electronic means na rin. So, reminder ko na lang din, kapag nagkakandak tayo ng online orientation, although online ito, dapat hindi natin nako-compromise yung integrity or quality ng ating activity. Kailangan andun yung transfer of knowledge talaga na ini-expect kapag nagkakandak tayo ng physical orientation. Next, use of Facebook. Ayan, for coordination and follow-up. So we are thankful sa ating top management sa pagiging lenient nila sa atin sa paggamit ng Facebook, because I believe in other agencies the use of Facebook during office hours is strictly prohibited. Sorry. Sa atin, mabait naman ang top management at nalaman naman natin na effective ang Facebook to communicate sa ating mga field officers. Compared kasi sa other platforms like email or kung ite-text mo sila isa-isa or tatawagan isa-isa, medyo magastos at matagal. Sa Facebook kasi, pwede ka mag-post ng isang status, makikita na ng lahat. So, mas efficient ang Facebook kumpara sa other means. And then, development of infographics on LG compliance and public announcement. So, ini-encourage natin ang ating mga field officers na sana ma-maximize natin yung ating potential sa paggawa ng mga infographic materials. Kasi sa panahon ngayon, infographics na yung labanan. Kumpara kasi sa lengthy and wordy narrative status reports, tapos i-post mo sa isang social media, medyo hindi kinakagat yan ng mga readers eh. As compared to catchy and relatable na infographics, mas nare-retain sa isip ng tao yung mga images, yung mga kulay, yung mga figures, mas magandang gamitin ang infographics. Advice din na whenever you have free time, kung meron man kayo, mag-prepare na kayo siguro ng mga infographic templates. Wag nyo na hintayin na kung kailan kayo dapat may i-announce, doon pa lang kayo gagawa. Pero kung may free time kayo, gumawa na kayo para pag dumating na yung oras na kailangan yung mag-post, saksak na lang kayo ng saksak ng information, mas mabilis. Number 7, upgrading of Google storage to avoid creating of multiple accounts. So, we discourage our field officers from creating new Gmail accounts. Hindi naman po sa nagdadamot, pero mahirap po sa level ng regional office ang mag-share ng 100 plus monitoring reports sa isang bagong Gmail account. Bakit mahirap po? Kasi kapag nag-share po kami, sharing is being customized. Ibig sabihin, iniisa-isa po namin yan per LGU, nilalak namin yung, halimbawa, si Buwak Marinduque, hindi niya pwede galawin si Gasan and the rest of the LGU. So, gaano po kahirap yung mag-lock per LGU. So, kung instead of creating new account, we suggest you to upgrade your Google space or storage. So kami po sa LG Med, ang aming Google space ngayon is 2 terabyte na. That is, magkano ba 2 terabyte? Nasa 4,800 per year. Annual na to, 4,800. So kung hindi nyo kaya yung 4,800 per year, meron naman tayong 100 gig. Pwede naman ang 100 gig, which is 900 pesos per year. So, kung 900 pesos per year siya, that is only 75 pesos a month. Kayang-kaya na po ng ating communication allowance. Hindi na masakit sa bulsa. At saka, advice na lang din kung sakaling nakikita nyo napupuno na yung inyong Google Space, mag-delete na po kayo ng mga unnecessary materials and files kasi malaking kabawasan yun, lalo sa inbox at sa My Drive nyo. And then procurement of subscription. So, ito nga, na-discuss na rin naman to ni Jackie kanina sa regional office yata, RO lang, ORD at CDD lang ang meron sa aming subscription. So kami sa med, pag nag-aano kami, ginagamit namin yung Google Meet. But personally, I prefer Zoom over Google Meet. Although libre yung Google Meet kahit ikaw pa yung host, sa Zoom kasi medyo magandang laruin yung mga interface nung application, unlike Google Meet na parang naliligaw ka kung anong pipindutin mo sa Zoom iba. Tsaka mas maganda yung dating ng Zoom. Pero kung mga small meeting lang naman, pwede kayo mag-Google Meet. And lastly, tracking of COVID-19 related reports. So, sa ngayon, meron tayo yatang 21 COVID-related reports. Some of these reports are not active na, meaning para mga one-shot na lang yung iba. Ang iba naman ay ina-update lang as need arises, like yung utilization of bayanihan grant, yung mga utilization of development fund for COVID-related efforts, yung mga LDR fund. So, ina-update na lang natin yung paminsan-minsan. Pero ang hindi natin dapat kalimutan dito, which is required by the central office daily, is the submission of the CQMS and the CTT report. So, daily po yan sinasubmit sa central office. Kahit po Sabado at Linggo, magsasubmit tayo sa central office. So, that's all for strategy 2, monitoring and evaluation component. Thank you, JR.
Maraming salamat, Sir Drew, Assistant Division Chief ng LG Med. Oras po natin, 11 minuto makalipas ang ika-11 ng umaga. Mag-aalas 12, no? Pero tuloy-tuloy pa rin tayo. Para po sa third pillar ho ng Ensuring Excellence for Project Development and Management, tawagan po natin ang ating Division Chief ng ating PDMU, Sir Lorenzo F. Suarez. Sir Lori, good morning.
Good morning. Ayos hindi tungkod yun. Ano yun? Malita yun. Loko to. Hello, magandang umaga sa inyo lahat. Naririnig na ba ako? Loko to si Kim eh. Sabi tungkod daw yun eh. Malita yun. Anyway, sabi binigyan lang ako ng 5 minuto para dito. Para sa, parang reminder lang ito, MC 2020-098. Otherwise known as the guidance on the conduct of on-site monitoring for OPDS administered locally funded checks under the new normal. Ano ba? Dated July 6, 2020. So, next slide please. Yeah, listen na. Next slide, slide number 2. Okay. Background, itong MC na ito deals with monitoring the new normal. Background, ito yung monitoring for all locally funded projects. And the purpose of this is for continuous monitoring of all our locally funded projects for all the persons involved, like central office, regional office, and also, of course, the provincial office and provincial offices and our MLGOs. So itong MC na ito, yung mga nakasaad dito kinal out from this legal compliance, DILG MC 2018-104, DILG MC 2020-094, CMGP guidelines, and also the IATF MEID revised omnibus guidelines dated May 15, 2020. IATF MEID, yung management of emerging infectious diseases. Yeah. And of course, the DPWH Department Order number 39, na kung saan andun yung mga construction safety guidelines. And next slide, please. Anyway, ang nakalagay dito as policy content and guidelines, 5.1.1 is taking into account the inter-LGU travel restrictions and to minimize human physical intervention, only DILG provincial office engineers are encouraged to field for project inspection at a ratio of 1:1 engineer per 1 project site or 1 LGU. So malinaw dito na kaya kung magtataka kayo, merong request ang isang LGU for final inspection, pinapasa na po namin dyan sa inyo sa provincial level dahil may mga engineers din tayo dahil alam naman natin ang ating kalagayan ngayon because of COVID. So pwede lang sumama ng regional engineer or regional office kung ang engineer ay within the province or locality. So halimbawa, katulad nung sa San Fernando, La Union, may bibisitahin project o monitor na project sa San Fernando, La Union. Nasa San Fernando, La Union naman na central ang regional office ng DILG, pwede sumama yung engineer doon. So sa atin, kung may nasa Calapan City tayo, pwede sumama yung regional engineer doon. Okay? Or kung may satellite office tayo. So, since 5 minutes lang ako, hindi ko na tatapusin itong mga slides, kahit 12 lang ito, bibigay ko na lang yung summary. So, dito sa MC na ito, na binigyan naman kayo ng kopya, bawat isa, meron ng ating mga field offices. Pagdating dito sa ating monitoring, it will depend more on subaybayan. So central office will depend on the subaybayan reports that they will receive. So yung mga imo-monitor na project, ibe-base nila dun sa subaybayan. Kung halimbawa may projects at risk or priority projects to be monitored, dun nila titingnan sa subaybayan and then they will ask the regional office for confirmation or validation kung talagang project at risk yung nakita nila mga projects doon sa subaybayan. So, ang regional office ang siyang magsasabi kung tama ang nakita nila doon sa subaybayan. Kaya nga sabi natin, tama-tama yung nangyaring subaybayan orientation sa atin dahil na-improve. Ngayon, please, ang pakiusap namin, please continue updating the subaybayan or updating our projects in the subaybayan. So, ano pa? Kasi nakalagay dito sa hindi ko na ilalagay yung mga detalye dahil lang nakalagay doon sa details, siyempre yung mga health protocols, pagka magmo-monitor, naka-face shield, naka-face mask, meron pa nga PPE nakalagay, tapos yung virtual exit conference. Sabi ko nga sa OPDS, nung kami mag-orientation dito sa monitoring, sabi ko, matagal na namin ginagawa yung exit conference dahil after yung mga provincial engineers namin, after mag-monitor ng project or projects sa isang locality, siyempre, aside from the protocol na courtesy call kay mayor sa LCE or sa local officials and then monitor, nagkakaroon ng exit conference. So, nagugulat sila, automatic sa atin yon. Okay? So, yun lang ang may share ko for now. And allow me na samantalahin ko na itong pagkakataon na ito na i-inform ang bawat isa or ang bawat DILG office natin na magkakaroon yung ating sinasabing LPMC orientation or Local Project Monitoring Committee orientation ay balik na sa September 2 to 3. Virtual to. Dati nga, September 16 to 17 yata, nabago na naman ang central office. And yung official communication ay within this week lalabas, inaapura ko rin. Bawat LGU ay and each DILG city, provincial, regional office ay merong 4 slots para sa Zoom. So, please, do sa ating mga munisipyo and city, yung mga LPMC members natin, together with our DILG personnel dun sa munisipyo and sa city, Calapan City, observe na lang natin yung mga sinasabing health protocols, yung wearing of face mask, face shield, at saka yung social distancing. Kasi limited lang yung slots, kaya at least kahit papano meron tayong 4 slots sa Zoom for the LPMC. So yun lang, and good day. Stay safe everyone. God bless.
Alright, maraming salamat po ang ating Project Development and Management Unit Chief, Sir Lorenzo F. Suarez. Maraming salamat, sir, sa mga folding beds pala at sa mga drums na natin ginagamit sa ating regional office. And paalala lang po sa ating mga participants, medyo nag-82 na tayo, kumukonti na tayo. Kailangan pa rin ho natin mag-attendance ho tayo dito sa link na naka-provide po sa ating chat box. Kasi pag nag-in tayo, kailangan din ho natin mag-out later para for the post survey. Kasi ho, kapag hindi po kayo naka-time in at hindi kayo naka-time out, hindi po kayo makaka-receive ng certificate of attendance. So, importante ho na makapag-in. Reminder ho, mag-in ho tayo sa link na provided po sa ating chat box. Alright? So, para po sa last pillar, under the Ensuring Excellence, pillar for implementation in PAPs, ang ating pong buwabalik ang ating planning officer, Cecil M. Ibarrientos. Ma'am Cecil, good morning.
Thank you, JR. Good morning po ulit. So for strategy E3, implementation of PAPs, number 1, assess PAPs and classify if possible for virtual or remote implementation. So for the conduct of training, CAP dev activities, consultation meetings, we are assessing po yung possibility if pwede tayong mag-online or blended modality with maximum of 10 packs po sa isang conference room. So, pwede po tayong mag-online or blended. Depende po sa situation. Yun. Dahil po marami tayong sinusunod na mga restrictions from the issuances and mga policies from RAITF. So, we have to assess po the possibility of online or blended modality. For the performance and project monitoring through online system, yun na nga po yung sinabi ni Sir Lori kanina, we have to intensify the use of subaybayan na system. And lagi po natin kailangan i-update yon and yung PCF website po natin. In the promotion of programs and activities, pwede po natin gamitin yung mga advertisements or radio broadcast para mas ma-disseminate yung promotion ng ating mga programs. In the development and distribution of IEC materials, I think po merong nakalatag na ang LGRC relative to COVID-19. Then, sa implementation of PAPs pa rin po, we are maintaining 2 Facebook account. Meron po tayong private and yung for public viewing po natin. So we utilize po yung private account, lalong-lalo na dun sa mga memos requiring immediate reports. So yun po yung kagandahan, no? Minaximize po natin yung use ng technology. And we also have itong tinatawag nating mga GC. Para po kaya mabilis nating ma-disseminate yung mga instruction from or directives from SILG, galing po kay USEC, ASEC, where nangangailangan po ng immediate delivery or required data. So, yun po yung pag-implement po natin ng PAPS. COVID, may COVID po sa ating bansa. Next po. So, nasa L na po tayo. L meaning leveraging resources. So, strategy L1, austerity measures shall be implemented in all work areas. So, use of air conditioning in work area shall be from 7 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. only. So, reiterate ko lang po ito. Use water shall be reused for watering of plants, cleaning of basement, and other premises. Number 3, lights shall be regularly checked and turned off when not in use. Pati po yung ating pag-use ng computers after working hours, we have to ensure na nakapatay po yan. Next po. Strategy L2, the operations plan and budget shall be regularly updated to ensure that plans and programs relative to the fight against COVID-19 and the adoption to the new normal are funded. So as of now po, nagkaroon na po tayo ng modification sa OPB wherein we consider po yung mga different modalities sa pag-implement ng ating mga PAPs para hindi po ma-sacrifice yung mga deliverables na atin. So, we have submitted the modified or realigned OPB. And we also considered dun sa realignment, yung sinasabi po ni Attorney Pines kanina, yung NBC 580, wherein na-less po yung ating budget or nabawasan po yung ating budget for about 10%. And of course, dahil po doon, kailangan din po nating i-revise yung ating APP to include po items needed to address the COVID-19 situation. So, kaya po nagkaroon tayo ng mga procurement of yung sinasabi ni Sir Lori, yung galing kay Sir Lori, folding beds, yung ating mga masks, disinfecting equipments or PPE. Yun po ay dahil po doon nakapag-revise po tayo ng ating APP. Then of course, may mga revisions pa rin po dahil po dun sa binigay sa atin ng central office na in response pa rin po to COVID-19 situation. So, yan po ay kailangan pong mag-revise ulit ng plans or mag-supplement ng another plans po for that budget. Which is to be submitted po sa central office. Okay. So, nasa last na po tayong syllable. Discipline at all times. Strategy 1, compliance with all issuances of authorities and observe of health protocols and etiquette shall be imposed among all employees. So, cover mouth and nose with tissue or handkerchief when coughing or sneezing. Na-discuss na po ito kanina. Unnecessary conversations should be avoided during office hours. So ito po kailangan po nating paigtingin, avoiding the chika-chika sa office natin. Employees, number 3, employees shall verify sources of information before sharing in their personal account. So, na-touch na rin po ito kanina, 2 beses na. So, kailangan din po natin i-check, no, kung saan ba nanggaling at kung reliable po ba ang source ng information natin. Observance of health protocols during conduct of unavoidable face-to-face trainings, meetings, and conferences. Ito po, paulit-ulit na rin po ito kanina, yung ating distance na required should be observed. Observance of virtual meetings etiquette. So ito po, kanina, binigay na rin po ni Lance ito before po tayo mag-start ng ating orientation. Iulitin ko lang po. Schedule virtual meeting etiquettes, schedule meeting and send links in advance. Yun po yung number 1. Prepare a quiet area to set up your computer. Number 3, test your camera, microphones before the meeting begins. Number 4, mute your mic when you're not talking. Dressed appropriately. So kahit nasa bahay po tayo, kailangan po nating magbihes appropriately. Speak up. Pag enter po natin ng room, meeting room, kailangan po nating ipaalam na nandoon na po tayo. Stay seated and present. And number 3, send out a summary of the meetings afterwards sa office. So yun po yung mga observance po ng ating etiquette, meeting etiquette. So yun lang po. Thank you so much po.
Alright, maraming salamat po sa ating planning officer, Ma'am Cecily Barriento. So, kanina, nalaman na natin ano ibig sabihin ng DILG Project Shield. Alam na natin yung S na system in place, health first, information for all, ensuring excellence, leveraging sources, and discipline at all times. Ngayon po, ano yung response naman natin? Assessment of DILG MIMAROPA response for COVID-19. Kaya ibabalik po natin ang ating Division Chief ng Finance and Administration Division, Attorney Pilipinas D. Baclayan. Attorney Pines.
So, good morning once again. Wait lang. Yan. So, inalis lang po natin yung nag-e-echo. So, salamat sa ating mga presenters na naipakita ng maayos yung ating mga strategies and what we have been doing and what we will continue to be doing as we transition to the new normal or as we are, yun nga, sabi ni Sir kanina, nasa new normal na ba tayo? Kasi ginagawa naman na natin tong mga to. So, yun nga, nasa transition pa tayo. And we still don't know kung hanggang kailan po ito. So, for purpose of assessing yung ating ng buo, kailangan ulit po natin na i-document yung kabuuan ng ating accomplishments. So, how will we do it? We will be sharing through Google Sheet. Meron na pong nagawa si Sydney na template for reporting nung ating mga accomplishments kung paano natin na isagawa itong dati mga plans pa lang na ito. So that's gonna be hitting 2 birds with 1 stone kasi yun na rin po yung ating compliance report to be submitted to the central office on the implementation of risk control approach in addressing COVID-19 pandemic in our office. Kasi yung pinapasubmit naman doon na which we received last week na memorandum from HEA is pinapasubmit tayo ng ating actions pertaining to risk control. Like, yung risk control nila parang ganyan din sa atin na it's an acronym where R stands for revision of policies, revision of procedures, ganyan. Tapos I is ensuring of something, parang ganon, health, may ganon din po yun. So, that's how we will be, ayan. So, as presented here in our screen, yan po yung risk control approach. So, in every letter, yung risk control approach, ipa-plot lang po natin yung mga present, lahat ng input ng bawat division. And perhaps we will be, ayun nga, tulad ng sabi ko kanina, we will get more suggestions or plans from our provincial offices and municipal offices. But siguro through this na po yung gagawin natin. So, iswak na lang natin, i-shoot kung saan nakabilang dito sa is our action or our accomplishment falling under letter R or under I, under S. I think as I was browsing the compliance report template, parang captured niya lahat yung lahat yung accomplishments natin pertaining sa SHIELD. So, this is the right way to do assessment. I think, sir, ito na lang po ang gamitin natin. Kasi ayan naman na okay na yung template ni Sydney. So, yan na lang din po ang gamitin natin na pag-assess ng ating COVID-19 accomplishments. So, siguro, after this activity or yun nga, as we will plot yung mga presentations and yung mga bago pa, ang dami. Ilalagay lang natin dito. And the responsibility of everyone concerned is to provide the means of verification. So it's gonna be the regional office who will consolidate the means of verifications coming from the different operating units. And they will be sent to the central office as a part of our compliance with the implementation of the risk control approach in addressing the COVID pandemic. So yun lang po. Thank you sa contribution ng nating lahat, ninyong lahat. Without your accomplishments, hindi po natin ma-attain or ma-accomplish yung fruition ng what started to be a quality action plan, which is now being quality implementation. So yun lang po. Thank you again, and thank you CDD sa magandang facilitation. Para tayong nasa radyo, JR, parang DJ na DJ ang dating, sabi nga ni Andrew. And again, I would like to reiterate my gratitude sa ating Regional Director and Assistant Regional Director for being very supportive on our ideas, and to our Division Chiefs, Provincial Directors for being very cooperative. Kung meron tayong hihingiin na mga data or insights, input, so they are always ready. Yan. And of course, thank you to the willingness of all our employees na mag-implement ng kung ano man yung naiisip ng ating management. Kahit minsan ay we feel na hindi nakasama yung ating input. So perhaps that there's a glitch in communication. So, isa po yan sa ating re-remedyohan, yung ating communication plan. So, once again, thank you sa ating lahat and good morning again.
Alright, maraming salamat po muli
Yeah.
sa ating
Excuse. Pwede ako magdagdag for information lang ng lahat, for the information of everybody. Meron tayong tawag dito yung washable face mask na para sa mga probinsya. Ang nabadalhan pa lang naman ay yung 2 Mindoro. At susunod na ipapadala yung Romblon, Palawan, Marinduque. And aside from those 2 pieces of washable face mask na merong logo na DILG, meron din yung towelette per personnel. Yun. Kasi yung towelette na yon, hindi naman towelette na labakara, yung medyo mahaba na parang good morning pero hindi good morning ha. Yung sa World Water Day supposedly yun ay hindi naman natuloy. So sa DILG personnel na lang. Yun lang po. Maraming salamat.
Alright, maraming salamat po, Sir Lori. Nako, ang dami ho talaga nating giveaways galing sa PDMU. Mahal na mahal po tayo ng PDMU. Hindi lang mga folding beds, may mga face mask, washable face mask, and towels din ho tayo. So, muli, maraming salamat po kanina kay Attorney Pines at kay Sir Lori.